Hey crafty friends, welcome to 12 Cards of Christmas 2015, and this is the first card that we're going to create a 3D Christmas scene. So I have here a 9.5 by 6.5 white cardstock, which I have scored on the 4.5 inch line and the 5-inch line. So this created a spine, a gusset of sorts, because we're going to need the space in between. So the 4.5 and the 5, and we can put that aside for now. I have here two pieces, 6.5 by 4.5 inches, that are exactly the same size as one side of the card, and 4.5 by 4-inch piece. So what I did is scored each piece of cardstock every 1/2 inch, and now I'm folding it in an accordion shape. That means one fold in, one fold out, or mountain fold, valley fold. And what we're going to create is an accordion shape for each of the smaller squares of cardstock that I have. So you should have 4 peaks in the accordion. So the other piece as well, fold it in an accordion shape, and you should have 7 score lines. That would give you the 4 peaks that you need. So once everything is folded, we can go ahead and create a frame in the front of our card. And what I'm doing is leaving excuse me, a 1/2 inch margins. So take your ruler and measure everything so it will be nice and accurate. So 1/2 inch from each side, only on the front of the card. This will be our window, so to speak. So I'm just going to measure everything and mark it with a pencil, and this will be easier for me to cut it later with my craft knife. So I'm going to do this side now. And when you need to measure something for a straight line, I always recommend that you mark 2 points, because as you know, a straight line goes through 2 points. 1 point is usually not enough and doesn't ensure that your line will be straight. So that's my recommendation. So take your craft knife and cut out according to the lines that you created with the pencil. And the best thing here is to use a craft knife because scissors are going to be too complicated to insert them and then cut, and I would rather use a craft knife. It's much easier and faster, and the lines are nice and straight. So take out the middle part that you've cut out. We don't need that. So now you have your window. Now what we're going to do is ink all the edges as we usually do. And that will give us some more definition and some more dimension to our card. You don't have to do this. I'm doing this in Vintage Photo Distress ink. You can use any color that you want, but I want to use this one, and you don't even have to ink the edges if you don't want to. I'm also inking the edges of the gusset and on the back side of the card as well, so everything will look the same and has a uniform look to it. So once you're done with that, can move aside our ink and our window and create our 3D box. Now this is a really simple procedure. I'm just inking all the mountain folds, all the peaks, just to make sure that the look again will be uniform and nice, because the folds will be visible from the side, so we want to make sure they'll look nice. So once you're done with that, we are going to attach the folds and create a sort of a box. So you take the small piece and the larger piece, and you just insert the folds into each other, like so. And once that's in its place, just put a little bit of tape to secure it so it won't move on the top and on the bottom. Do not put any glue in the folds, in between the folds. We need them to open. We need the accordion to work. If you put some adhesive there, then they'll all stick together and there will be no volume. We need the volume. Okay, so only on the top and the bottom. So we're doing the other side now with the smaller side, again on the top and the bottom, just to secure it so it won't move. A little bit of tape. I recommend to use a dry adhesive, not a liquid one. We don't want any leftovers, and we don't want any sticky parts where we don't want them. So the best thing is, I put the glue in the wrong place, but that's okay because that whole part is going to be glued to the card, so it's fine. And the last corner, attach it now. And add your adhesive. I didn't put adhesive on the bottom part there, so it fell apart. Don't forget top and bottom. Okay. On this side too. And then we'll have a frame, a 3D frame that we can insert. See, we can insert different paper cuts, embellishments, and whatever you want in between the folds in different layer each time, and that will create the 3D perspective scene that we want. So now we have to attach the 3D frame to the window, and this I recommend using liquid glue because you need to adjust the place where it goes, and that's easier to do with liquid glue. You can still move it after you attach it, at least until the glue is dry, but when you use tape, then once it's there, once you glue it on the paper, you can't move it anymore. And here you need to be very accurate, so you want the option of moving things to make sure they align perfectly with the window. And now you take that piece, the 6.5 by 4.5 piece of cardstock that we have, and before you glue it down to the back side of the window, I'm going to add a little bit of blue distress ink on it, because that's going to be the background for our scene, and I want it to be blue like the sky. So I'm using a blender and blue ink. It's called Faded Jeans. That's the specific color. And I'm just adding sky. So when you attach this to the window, you need to turn it over and then glue it down, because we want the window, the opening for the window is on the other side. So this will make sure, see, that there is that blue sky background that we wanted. So now I'm going to cut some little snow hills from just a piece of white paper. Make sure the width is not too long, so you can insert it in between the folds. And I'm going to cut some Christmas trees from larger Christmas trees that I have here on this paper, but they're too big, so I'm just going to reduce their size a little bit. If you have smaller ones, if you have dies, if you have whatever you want to use, you just cut what you need. Of course, you can create your own trees with your own papers. Now for the last tree. Okay. Now comes the fun part of creating our scene. So we have here our snowy peaks and the trees, and I'm going to punch out some snowflakes, and then we'll be able to assemble our scene. Now again, what we need is to insert the different pieces of paper into the folds. So you have 4 folds, or actually 3 in the bottom part, which is not a fold, and then you insert each piece in a different place, and that will create the 3D effect. So I'm inserting the first piece on the top, and then the next piece, make sure to put glue on the edges so it will stay in its place. The second one is going under it to the bottom, to the middle fold, and the third one will go on the bottom fold. So this will make a really pretty 3D scene. That one goes on the bottom fold, and the same goes for the trees. Now, since the trees are, at least this tree at least, this one's going to go in the front. So I'm going to add additional support for the tree with some foam tape. Now I need to make sure that the tower, so to speak, of the foam tape is as high as the distance between the background and the front snow pile where I want to put the tree. Otherwise, there will be no support. If there is not enough foam tape, then the tree will be left in the air. Hope that makes sense. So I've needed 8 pieces. I've just counted them. 8 pieces of foam tape, one on top of the other. Depends actually on what kind of foam tape you use, but the one I use, I needed 8 pieces. So I'm attaching it to the first snow pile there, and I think I need another one. See how tall this tower is, but that will give me the support that I need, otherwise the tree will not hold. So those foam tape are going to be attached, they're basically glued down to the background. So since this is secure in its place, then the other trees can lean on this tree as their support. As well as for this one, I'm also adding some foam tape in the back for additional support. This one's going to go on the back, so it doesn't need a very tall tower of foam tape. And the third one is going to go on the side here. So since it has 2 points of glue, then this is enough support. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of foam tape, and that will be enough. So this one will go in here. Beautiful. So now we can add our snowflakes. So some snowflakes I'm going to attach with some foam tape so they'll pop out of the background, and some with just regular glue. So each of them will be in a different distance from the background. So this one goes in with 2 pieces of foam tape. This one goes only with some glue directly on the background. And I'm going to punch 2 more. One is going to go behind the tree with a little piece of foam tape. I cut it in half so it will be easier to insert it under the tree. If it will be whole, then it will not be inserted very easily or not at all, because remember there is a tower of foam tape behind there in the tree. So half is enough. This one goes here, and I'm going to the second one, punch the second one, and punched another one just to be on the safe side. This one would go here in the front. Great. So now all I need to do is add some letters. I have some red letter stickers, and I'm going to add Noel. Whenever I'm dealing with small letter stickers, I always like to use my tweezers. That helps a lot, makes things a lot easier. Okay, and now all we need is the L. Now I want to see how beautiful that looks. Now I want to add a little bit of a touch on the inside. So I'm going to ink the edges of the card with the same ink that I used on the outside, and then maybe add a snowflake or something, just so the inside will match the outside of the card and won't be so blank and boring. So for that part in the middle where I can't reach with my big blender, I am going to get a smaller one, which would make my life much easier. Okay. So now I think I'm going to add a little tree, which I'm going to use leftover pieces of what I cut before. Always try to use whatever leftover pieces that you have instead of cutting more pieces, because it's not a problem to find a triangle and a smaller square to go on the bottom and just create a tree, right? Distressing it a little bit with some brown ink, and we're going to have a nice little tree there. Inking the edges, don't forget that, always adds that extra detail. So there's our tree, and I'm going to add a snowflake also, maybe even two. I got that snowflake punch 2 years ago or something, and it was really handy. Use it a lot. Okay, so now our card is ready. I think it's really beautiful, and thank you very much for joining me. Make sure to tune in every day to have more cards ideas for the 12 Cards of Christmas 2015 series that is going to start today and continue for 12 days. Thank you very much for watching. See you all tomorrow.